Hello, everyone. We have here, welcome to our collection of books by, we call it the Feisty Girl collection. Authors, independent women that do things the way their own way. And let's start. We start off with Carrie Fisher, Surrender the Pink. That's the first one. Tarnished Angel, memoir by Jennifer Lee. She was a wife of the comedian Richard Pryor, who was a very good comedian. Here, this is Confessions of a Pretty Lady by Sandra Bernhard. Then we have The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly, A Hollywood Journey by Sondra Locke. Then we have Jong, Serenissima, a novel of Venice. Then we have here Nobody's Rib, Norah Dunn, the comedian Norah Dunn. We have, if we can get to it, we might get to this first. We have Wendy Wasserstein, Bachelor Girls by Wendy Wasserstein, who also wrote The Heidi Chronicles, Uncommon Women and Others, and Isn't It Romantic? We have here Tama Janowitz, Slaves of New York, the dazzling national bestseller. Then we have here You Might As Well Live, The Life and Times of Dorothy Parker. This is about Dorothy Parker. So anyway, we'll have selected readings from various of these books, novels. One moment. Okay, we'll start. Okay, we have here from Carrie Fisher, we'll read a little Surrender the Pink. Surrender the Pink is fiercely witty and tender, and a pleasure to read. At last, the truth can come out. Carrie Fisher is the love child of Eddie Fisher and Dorothy Parker. This was by Meg Wollister. The New York Times best-selling author of Postcards from the Edge turns her rapier sharp wit and wisdom to the subject closest to our hearts, modern romance. Carrie Fisher's journey into the dim recesses of modern love darkness is a hilarious and bittersweet romp through one woman's sexual awakening, its subsequent demise and eventual rebirth, albeit with defects. A hip and hopeful look at the consequences of romantic obsession as a full-time career. Soap opera writer Dina Kaufman has a problem. She only loves the ones who leave. This leaving love has its advantages and its hilarities. After meeting successful New York playwright Rudy Gendler, Dina realizes she may have finally found her knight in shining armor, or an unreasonable facsimile. But all too soon, their unhappy ever after marriage comes to its inevitable war-torn and leaving both hearts broken and bloody. Still, Dina, like the polite masochist she is, finds temptation too sweet to resist going back for seconds, especially when the writer's strike in Hollywood gives her dangerously free time to daydream about what was and what could possibly still be. Reality placed precariously on a back burner, Dina flees to the Hamptons, where Rudy and his newest flame are also summering. As Dina herself would say, quote, after all, nothing is ever really over, just over there. Here is the long-awaited second novel that confirms beyond the shadow of a doubt Fisher's startling depth and writerly talent. Carrie Fisher lives in Los Angeles and is working on her third novel, Delusions of Grandma, a literary guild selection, Simon & Schuster. She has a lot of high praise. High praise for Postcards from the Edge, destined to become a cult classic, and wonderfully funny, brash, and biting novel, the most startling literary debut since J. McInerney's Bright Lights, Big City. This is a laugh-out-loud book. The author's voice is keenly perceptive, surprisingly sentimental. Okay, she has more praise too. New York Times, at once harrowing and hilarious, Vogue, sensationally acute, staringly funny. Okay, we'll get on to another one here. This is a memoir by Jennifer Lee, Surviving in the Dark Curve of Drugs, Violence, Sex, and Fame. This is Tarnished Angel. She was a wife of Richard Pryor. Tarnished Angel is by what publishing company? This is by Thunder's Mouth Press, New York. Okay. Tarnished Angel is the harrowing tale of a life lived on the edge, a life that moved at the speed of sound. Jennifer Lee, former wife of Richard Pryor and confessed, quote, experience junkie, offers a rare look into the inner sanctum of stardom. Lee describes in vivid detail Hollywood's best at their worst. The secrets of a world where entertainers are treated like gods. Sex is in threes, compulsive shopping binges are at Bendel's and Bergdorf's, and cocaine is ubiquitous. She candidly relates her affairs with such celebrities as Warren Beatty, Roman Polanski, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Jimmy Connors, and Ryan O'Neal. She offers speaks revealingly about her experiences with Jane Fonda, Halston, Diane Van Furstenberg, Sammy Davis Jr., Beverly D'Angelo, Miles Davis, John Green, Gerard Malanga, and of course with Pryor and his entourage. In this, her Odyssey of Survival, Jennifer Lee shares an intimate look at the world's most privileged people and their high-risk, mind-spinning lifestyles. Jetting to London with international arms merchant Adnan Khashoggi. Hanging out all night with the Warhol crowd at New York's legendary Max's Kansas City, and on the road with country and Western greats. Jennifer Lee was tormented by her passionate and violent relationship with Richard, which encompassed his most successful and tragic moments. She inspired some of Pryor's finest work, yet witnessed his uncontrollable drug addiction and was subjected to his violent and abusive mood swings. Tarnished Angel is the riveting story of how one woman survived the self-destructive, hedonistic Hollywood of the 70s and 80s. Jennifer Lee is a female Henry Miller, a modern-day Scarlett O'Hara, an angel who has flown too close to the ground. So, let's see. So this is, let's see, a quote from Jennifer Lee from A Tarnished Angel. This is a quote, I like to go to the edge and come back. People call me wild, but I've never doubted my ability to survive. There's something about running along the cliff that feels heroic and brave, makes me stronger, wiser. This is something nobody knows about me. This is my secret. I'm an experienced junkie. Jennifer Lee. Okay, that's Jennifer Lee, so that's Tarnished Angel we have here. Very interesting. Then we have here, we can do, Confessions of a Pretty Lady by Sandra Bernhard. We can read selections of the flap here. Welcome to the extraordinary world of Sandra Bernhard. Sophisticated, sardonic, and witty. Nothing escapes her acute eye and sharp tongue. With her pitch-perfect sense of style and humor, Bernhard chronicles the thrill of emergency vehicles, why she moved back to suburbia, the art of manicures, and etc., and other things. Bernhard's prose is both biting and vulnerable, feminine and tough. Whether reminiscing about her doctor father, learning hypnosis, or her mother's fascination with all things Japanese, Bernhard's stories are powerful, funny, scathing, erotic, and at times unsettling. Confessions of a Pretty Lady captures perfectly the strong subversive humor that is well known to those familiar with Sandra's performances on Late Night with David Letterman and her recent one-woman show, Without You, I'm Nothing. Whether the topic is family car trips through the Midwest or Jews who celebrate Christmas, Sandra's unique blend of caustic wit and fragile irony proves her to be as compulsively readable on paper as she is dazzlingly charismatic on stage. Here we have a quote from Madonna. This book saved my life. Madonna says that. Here's Mary Tyler Moore. Quote, it's the sometimes shocking, always fascinating stream of consciousness of a very funny lady. Here's Sandra Bernhard as a young girl over here. Oh, we have a few pictures here. When my parents were first married, they would stay up late eating butter and onion sandwiches and having fun. There's the parents. When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, quote, what would I be? Would I be pretty? Would I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Here we go, Sandra Bernhard. Sandra next to a young Saguro. She's next to a, looks like a cactus plant over here. Let's see what else we have of her. I used to make, it says here, I used to make Coco wear my brother's underpants. That's one of the dogs there. A beanie copter from the Beanie and Cecil era. Oh, she was wearing a beanie copter. This Beanie and Cecil was an early children's show. Beanie and Cecil. Measuring a brain for experimental purposes. There she is. Measuring a brain for experimental purposes. Let's see if any other pictures. Over here. My dad's mom, Lillian, bought my mother a silent butler for a big cocktail party. My brother Dan would sit in the basement listening to Bob Dylan. There he is. He would sit in the basement listening to Bob Dylan. Here, this is Bubba wore wigs and told us how she danced in the big stages in Moscow. She wrote a book called Such a Life, published when she was in her 80s. It was a Book of the Month Club selection and was favorably reviewed by Mario Puzo. That's Bubba. Bubba is the grandmother. That's her grandmother. Contemporary life in Scottsdale, Arizona. Contemporary life in Scottsdale, Arizona. I used to cut my grandfather's fingernails for him and brush the sides of his hair. So this is, you can all see this in Confessions of a Pretty Lady by Sandra Bernhard by Harper and Row. So that should be good. Let's see what else we have here. We have by the great authoress, playwriter, Wendy Wasserstein. She wrote the Heidi Chronicles. That was a very famous work of hers. Uncommon Women and Other Stories, and Isn't It Romantic? The Wendy Wasserstein. Let's see what it says here about her. The Heidi Chronicles is a play of our time, for our time, and one that in many ways defines it. United Press International. The graduating seniors of a Seven Sisters College trying to decide whether to pattern themselves after Katharine Hepburn or Emily Dickinson. Two young women besieged by the demands of mothers, lovers, and careers, not to mention a highly persistent telephone answering machine, as they struggle to have it all. A brilliant feminist art historian trying to keep her bearings and her sense of humor on the elevator ride from the radical 60s to the heartless 80s. Wendy Wasserstein's characters are so funny, so many-sided, and so real that we seem to know them from their Scene 1 entrances. Though the places they go are invariably surprising, and these three plays, Uncommon Women and Others, Isn't It Romantic, and the Pulitzer Prize-winning The Heidi Chronicles, managed to engage us heart, mind, and soul on such a deep and lasting level that they are already recognized as the classics of the modern theater. Mirthful and important, gloriously well-written, Newsday. So we have here The Heidi Chronicles by Wendy Wasserstein. She also wrote this, Bachelor Girls, that was an earlier, by the author of the Pulitzer Prize-winning play, The Heidi Chronicles, Wendy Wasserstein. Here we have about Wendy Wasserstein. Wendy Wasserstein, who has lived most of her life in New York, was educated at Mount Holyoke College and the Yale School of Drama. Her plays include Uncommon Women and Others, Isn't It Romantic, and most recently, The Heidi Chronicles, winner of the 1989 Tony Award for Best Play and the 1989 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Now, let's see. We have a book about Dorothy Parker, The Life and Times of Dorothy Parker. She was a very good, great social commentary, and she wrote columns in the 30s and 40s, maybe it could be the 20s. Let's find about her. Let's find out about her. Once upon a time, just after World War I, to be precise, the world was bright and new, and Dorothy Parker was one of the brightest and newest people in it. For a while, she was rich, famous, and powerful. She had 2 husbands, 4 lovers, a mansion in Beverly Hills, a country estate in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and a series of apartments in New York. She was a central figure at the celebrated Round Table at the Algonquin Hotel. Her 2 books of poems were bestsellers, and her collections of short stories were warmly hailed by the critics. 2 plays were written about her, and she was portrayed as a character in a 3rd. Newspaper columnists quoted her regularly, and practically every bright remark of the day was attributed to her. Upon learning that Calvin Coolidge had died, she asked, quote, how could they tell? And theater people treasured her review that noted that one of Katharine Hepburn's performances, quote, ran the whole gamut of emotions from A to B. Because she said and wrote so many funny lines, it was widely presumed that Dorothy Parker's life was a ceaselessly merry one. She did have a great deal of fun wherever she was, and that was usually at the center of the cultural and intellectual excitements of the day. In New York, amid the new breed of literary sophisticates. In Paris and Spain with Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and other expatriates. In Hollywood in its pre-war heyday. But Dorothy Parker was also an artist tormented by her own merciless sensibilities, viewing mankind with a wry, hard suspicion. You Might As Well Live is a wonderfully readable biography, as much about a style of life and art as about the person who did so much to express it. John Keats manages to depict his remarkable subject, the most talked about woman of her time, with warmth, sympathy, and an understanding of the cruel price of the sympathy and an understanding of the cruel price she paid for her complex creative gifts. We have here, so that's You Might As Well Live by John Keats. There are a few pictures here. This is the young Dorothy Parker. Spook Parker. Let's see, second from left, top row. Second from left, top row. Who? That would be second from left, top row. That would be over here. So that's Spook Parker. On the right is Mr. and Mrs. F. Scott Fitzgerald and the daughter, Scotty. That's Mr. and Mrs. F. Scott Fitzgerald. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby. Robert Benchley in 1932. Robert Benchley. Hemingway in his mid-20s. Edna St. Vincent Millay. Corey Ford. These are various writers and people that she dealt with, that she had to do with. Frank Sullivan. Frank Crowninshield. Frank Crowninshield. FPA. Now, let's see. This one is Donald Ogden Stewart with his award for the screenplay of The Philadelphia Story. Charles MacArthur and Helen Hayes. All right, let's see. That's here. The Remarriage of Alan Campbell and Dorothy Parker in 1950. Harpo Marx. He was from the Marx Brothers. There was Groucho. Groucho was the most famous. John McClane. John McClane. This is Vincent Sheen. Haywood Brown. Alexander Wolcott, Harold Ross. Alexander Wolcott, Harold Ross. This is at 70, Dorothy Parker in Hollywood, 1980. Here she is at 70, the age of 70. So that was, there was a very popular movie about Dorothy Parker and the Vicious Circle. You can check time. Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle. Let's see, we have here, we can go a little selection of this. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. A Hollywood Journey by Sandra Locke. Go a little bit into that. She did a lot of work with Clint Eastwood. He discovered her, as a matter of fact. So anyway, here, that's Sandra Locke, The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly. Sandra Locke's fairy tale story took her from a small town in Tennessee to the impossible heights of Hollywood. And, as in a fairy tale, she found herself on the arm of Prince Charming, Clint Eastwood, one of the film world's biggest stars. But this story turned dark when their high-profile breakup became ugly. Now, for the first time, she writes openly and emotionally about their relationship and how it ended, about how she came to Hollywood, her years there as an actress and a director, and what these experiences have taught her. Sandra Locke's southern childhood of books and dreams of becoming an actress seemed to come true overnight when she won a nationwide talent search to play the coveted role of Mick Kelly in the screen adaptation of Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And an amazing and often hilarious journey through many auditions and orchestrated by her high school sweetheart and soon to become husband, Gordon, Locke was discovered and catapulted into another world. The result was an acclaimed performance that was so luminous it immediately made her the talk of the industry and led to an Academy Awards nomination for her very first film. Her early days in Hollywood were filled with starring roles opposite such actors as Robert Shaw, Sally Kellerman, Ernest Borgnine, Elsa Lanchester, and Bruce Davison. Opposite whom she played in the cult classic rat movie Willard, when it was on the set of the Western outlaw Josie Wales that she met and fell in love with Clint Eastwood. That was a very good movie, the outlaw Josie Wales. Beginning a relationship that would last 13 years together, Locke and Eastwood went on to make numerous films, including The Gauntlet, Every Which Way But Loose, Bronco Billy, Any Which Way You Can, and Sudden Impact. Eventually, Locke launched her own directing career with such enthusiastically received films as Ratboy and Impulse. It was Locke's personal relationship with Eastwood, however, that made headlines. In 1989, when he suddenly changed the locks on their home and began pretending that their relationship had never even existed. As part of the first settlement, the powerful Eastwood agreed to set up a directing deal for her at Warner Brothers, a deal that turned out to be phony. In an incredible show of courage, Locke took her case to court and triumphed. She won an even greater triumph against the breast cancer that was discovered shortly after her breakup with Eastwood. And woven throughout is a fascinating look at Locke's encounter with the spiritual through her unique lifelong relationship with Gordon. And woven throughout is a fascinating look at Locke's encounter with the spiritual through her unique lifelong relationship with Gordon. In this wise and engrossing book, she takes us through it all. Sandra Locke is a natural storyteller, and she has a great story to tell. Sandra Locke lives in Los Angeles. This book is printed by William Morrow and Company, Incorporated. Here's another picture of Sandra Locke over here. Sandra Locke, The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly. The book was made in 1997. 1997. We have here Nobody's Rib by Norah Dunn. Norah Dunn was a comedian, and she's a current movie actress. She was a comedian. I'm pretty sure she worked in the Saturday Night Show here. Let's see, Norah Dunn's greatest hits. Nobody's Rib includes. Here, this is, she did various characters. Babette. This is a quote from her. I call myself a sex kitten instead of a sex goddess or a sex symbol. Because to me, goddess symbolizes ancient myth, and I don't want to be associated with age. And sex symbols, they always die, like Marilyn Monroe. She was mysterious, and she died mysteriously. And then Jane Mansfield, well, her head came off, and she died. But a sex kitten never dies. We just get fluffy. That's one quote. That's one of her routines on Saturday night. Let's see here, by Pat Stevens. He did a review on her. I am a voracious reader. My favorite book is Vogue. Month after month, year after year, I gobble up each volume. I like to think of my head as a big empty bucket waiting to be filled with pictures. And some words, big bold ones, legs, silk, sequins. Oh, I know there's hunger and famine and war and strife and other bad things, but I love shoes. Pat Stevens. Pat Stevens might have been a character she played. Okay, let's see. This is another routine she did. I still watch Mr. Rogers. I know people make fun of him, but he's so lonely. That's why I watch. I mean, your heart just goes out. You know, he has nothing. I mean, he comes home, he opens up that closet, there's nothing there. He only has one sweater, and he makes such a big deal out of it. Then Mr. Rogers says, let's go to the kitchen. Oh boy, I can't wait. I know there's nothing out there either, but he is truly excited about it. You feel so sorry for him. He picks up a bowl of fruit, and he takes an orange in his hand, and he says, this is an orange. I don't think he's aware of what's going on the other channels. I don't think he even has a TV. Joanne, that's another character that she played, Norah Dunn. You can see Norah Dunn does a lot of character actress work, often in the current movies. Let's see if we can see any pictures of Norah Dunn. Pat Stevens with her daughter Missy and Fred Savage. Pat Stevens with her daughter Missy and Fred Savage. Okay, Pat Stevens. Pat Stevens must have been a character that she played. Let's see, Ashley with Robert Downey Jr. Ashley. Oh, that's another character that she did. Let's see, Mittens. Let's see another picture or two. My brothers, Brian and Kevin. These are her brothers. And let's see, who did the book? The book is Harper Perennial, Norah Dunn. Nobody's Rib, Pat Stevens, Liz Sweeney, Babette, and some other women you know, Norah Dunn. The book was done, this is the first edition. Let's see, the book was done, let's see, 1991. Here's a couple of other pictures here. So, Nobody's Rib by Norah Dunn. Let's see if we have anything else here. Let's see now. Erica Jong. Serenissima, a novel of Venice. Erica Jong. She did Fear of Flying. That was a big work that she did. D.M. Thomas, a tour de force, dazzling and sparkling, like Venice herself. A treat for Erica Jong's legion of readers. D.M. Thomas. Now, let's read a little bit about Serenissima. Serenissima is the story of a love so great it bends time out of shape. A novel of Venice today and Venice in its illustrious past. This exquisite tale gives the reader both a compelling portrait of our modern-day film world and a clue to the passions behind Shakespeare's most enigmatic work. That must be A Merchant of Venice. Jessica Pruitt is a popular Hollywood actress in her 40s who has come to Venice to be a judge in the Venice Film Festival. In the rollicking, paparazzi-crazed atmosphere of the festival, Jessica senses that something mysterious is in the air. she begins receiving roses and sonnets from an unknown admirer who seems to be beckoning her to leave the narcissistic present and enter an enchanted past. The weather grows colder, the tourists depart, the canals freeze. It is one of the coldest autumns in history. Jessica is captive in Venice and goes deeper and deeper into Shakespeare and the history of the city, which Venetians call La Serenissima. While exploring the Jewish ghetto of Venice, Jessica suddenly finds herself at the Grand Canal in the Venice of Shakespeare's time, when she has at once been transformed into a Venetian Jewess of the 16th century. Shakespeare and his patron, the Earl of Southampton, have come to Venice to escape the plague which rages in England, and a passionate love triangle develops among the three. Jessica experiences the great sensual love she has always been seeking, a love that history decrees cannot last except in the timeless world of poetry. With the poet's richness of language and verbal pyrotechnics, Erica Jong has created an amazing novel that gives the reader the wings to travel through time. As Anthony Burgess said, quote, Erica Jong uses the techniques of fantasy and dream to purvey a very hard and convincing reality. This is fresh, innovative, ingenious, but very moving. The imagination of the poet she essentially is strikes deep. I recommend it with all my heart. Erica, quote, this is by Ken Follett. Erica Jong has written a sexy adventure story that is a real page-turner. Here we have Erica Jong about her. Erica Jong, poet and novelist, is the author of Fear of Flying, How to Save Your Own Life. Fanny, being the true history of the ventures of Fanny Hackabout Jones. Parachutes and Kisses, Witches, Megan's Book of Divorce. And 5 volumes of poetry, the mother of an 8-year-old daughter. Molly, she divides her time between New York City and Connecticut. This book is, let's see when it's from, 1987. Over here we have a signed copy of Erica Jong signed it over here. For Diane Shepard, Erica Jong with Love from Venice. Erica Jong, May 1987. So that's a signed copy of this book. This is Erica Jong, Serenissima, a novel of Venice. We have one more book here. Slaves of New York, Tama Janowitz, Slaves of New York, the dazzling national bestseller. And let's see, here we go. Oh, this has a lot of various people have said good things about it. Shrewd observation, skewed invention, a singular talent, James McNary, the New York Times Book Review. Let's see now. Let's read a little bit about it. Slaves of New York, avant-garde painters, jewelry designers, art dealers, and performance artists, all trying to make it professionally while coping with the unreliable subways, indestructible cockroaches, and scarcity of apartments that characterize New York City life. Janowitz knows what these people wear and what they eat for dinner. She is a keen observer. People. Slaves of New York. Quote, yearning for transcendent love, yet mired in the petulant, niggardly, supremely